coolest room in the building. So we want to keep it that way. Thank you very much, everybody, and Assalamu alaikum again. Bismillah. Today, and this particular panel I'm quite excited about, not being the first one only, but also the fact that we've got three amazing speakers here, three people that I've known for a while, and obviously a lot of us have followed their journeys as well. So I'm going to do a quick introduction of everybody, just in case nobody knows who they are. First of all, Kerim Ture is an entrepreneur and angel investor. He founded Modanisa.com in 2011 to provide choice and solve to Muslim women and be the platform for what is fashion brands and designers. Kerim has had a long life passion for entrepreneurship, meeting different cultures and improving society by empowering women and female entrepreneurs. He currently serves on the board of directors for Durham, the leading startup accelerator in Istanbul and the Youth Republic. He's also an award-winning Malcolm. He also has an award-winning Malcolm agency in Turkey. Chris is a passionate Muslim American entrepreneur, committed to reviving the goodness in humanity. We all know him from LaunchGood. At the age of 16, Chris was inspired to become Muslim in part through the autobiography of Malcolm X, who imprinted in him the desire to leave a lasting legacy of change. As I mentioned, he's the founder and co-founder and CEO of LaunchGood, the world's largest faith-inspired crowdfunding platform that has raised over $250 million in 152 countries. And finally, Shahzad Younus is the CEO of Muzz, the world's leading app to help Muslims around the world find their partner. Originally from Manchester and also self-proclaimed as vertically challenged. Yeah. Shahzad has a background in finance as he was formerly a vice president in equity portfolio trading at Morgan Stanley. That's where our link comes from. In the early 2010s, Shahzad quit his job to fully focus on operating and building Muzz. So thank you very much, all three of you, for taking the time out. First of all, I'm just going to allow each of you to spend 5 minutes giving us an opening gambit. Kerim, would you like to start and tell us a little about Modanisa? And just to go back to the topic of today's session, it's all about the Islamic economy, where it is now, where it has been, and what the future's like. Let's start with Modanisa.
Okay. You hear me? Cool. Everybody was asking me about the story of Modanisa. If you want, I can start with that. Okay, Turkey is a 99% Muslim country, and ironically, it's also a textile country, and people were looking for modest clothes all over the place in 2010. Like there was times people buy, like women buying two shirts and making one out of that to make it long sleeve. That is not a joke. That was real, and everyone was doing that. And I said, oh, what the hell? Why it is like that? And I try to convince other people, other producers and labels, to say that why don't you produce something for the modest ladies who choose the modest way of life? And everyone was looking at each other and saying, well, it's not our business. I was trying to convince them, saying that 65% of my country wearing hijab. Your mother wearing hijab. But everyone was like, okay, it's not our business. Because when they called fashion was what they looked to West. They looked to Paris, they looked to Milan, and no one was dressing modest over there. So I said, okay, please do it. Do something and let me advertise it for you, because I was in a part of an accelerator program and I know how to make e-commerce, enable people for e-commerce. But they said, okay, no, it's not our business. Then I said, okay, what if you give me your collection and I sell it through internet? Now they were like the bosses, or the textile bosses, they were like, I came and introduced to them with high-ranked people, and they couldn't tell me no twice. They said, we're not going to be in it, but I said, why don't you give your items to me? And I said it, and they said, okay, you try. Yeah. That's how we started Modanisa. Because when I get back home, I was thinking about the ladies. They are trying to reach to certain kind of clothing, and they can't find it. In 2010, in a textile country, in a 99% Muslim country, imagine the people in Germany, France, US. I said it was the challenge for me to convince people to cater to those ladies. Because in Modanisa, from the day one, we believe that the clothing is not a piece of cloth, a fabric that we put on ourselves, on our bodies. It's more than that. It's a part of our identity. It's a part of who we are, and it's a part of our self, what do you say, like self-esteem. It's a part of that. And it is a sin to not giving to the ladies. That's how we started, with 2 producers. One of them gave us 300 different scarves. The other one gave us, let's say, 20, 25 SKUs. That's all, how we started. Then we started to go to the Main Street producers, bulk producers, to buy our items. And we were looking like it was May, June. We were looking for long sleeve t-shirts, long sleeve tunics. All I could find was 19 long sleeve t-shirts, 19, not 20. Because everybody was telling that, why the hell you need long sleeves when it is in June? It's summertime, man. I said, it is needed. I was trying to explain that to explain it to them, and I said, why don't you produce it to me? They said, okay, bring the money, cash on the table, then I can do it. Because what they was thinking about me was, this romantic guy is going to lose a lot of money, and we get the money in advance. That's how we started, by convincing people that there is a market out there, and there is a clear need out there, and this is not only a need of clothing, it's our identity, it's serving to...
Did you feel when you started Modanisa that it was going to get to where it was today? Like where Modanisa is today, global brand, really servicing the needs of a lot of modest fashion requirements. Did you see that vision back in 2011?
No. What I was thinking is, from the day one, I was thinking it's a pan-global affair. I was thinking about that, but I don't know that. Like, I don't know if people have credit cards, if they want to buy from Turkey, if they buy at all from internet, they shop from internet for their clothing. Nothing. It was a black box.
Yeah.
We started with the bootstrapping. Yeah. I was, in a garage. Definitely, it was a garage.
Always a garage, right?
Yeah,
always.
It was that big. It was in a building. It was in a building, but it was a garage part of the building. It doesn't see the sunlight.
A basement.
Yes, we started like that, and alhamdulillah, we came to today, and it is great to start with a purpose. That's why, like it's born. Modanisa is born with a purpose. It was our egg that we came out of it.
Thank you so much. Shahzad, which room did you start in?
Bedroom. Sounds a bit dodgy, that. I feel like I should shop at Modanisa. These shorts are haram. I feel very exposed. So yeah, my story. There you go. Got nice knees, right? So yeah, how did it start? Somebody else asked me this over lunch, and I always say I'd love to look in hindsight and say, you know what, I always knew it was going to be this and blah blah. No, it was a lot of happy accidents along the way, and like to answer the question you asked Kerim about. Did you ever envisage you would get to this stage of where you are now? Not even slightly. Even now, I still don't have in my head, we're still small, but I know, alhamdulillah, we're not. But I still have that image. I don't think we're all that. And even now, as we've grown, never at all did I ever... I never actually stopped to imagine what it could be and what that even looks or feels like, because you have no idea, like literally. So yeah, background, super quick. Computer scientist by degree. hated computer science, did a finance career, so I was at Morgan Stanley for about 9 years. Ended up actually starting what was, this is recorded, but was a website, which we're not called anymore. So it started off as a website back in 2011. Just because I thought, I had a lot of friends who were single, professional, and this is like the professional scene in London, and everyone's like, oh my God, it's so hard to find someone. And I remember looking at what was out there, seeing these horrible websites, and I was like, my God, these are so bad. Literally, it started off with, these are so bad, even I could do better. So I literally built a site, but this is back in the day, 2011, whilst I was still working, just as a side project. Not that big at all, like literally a few thousand people joined over X years, so it wasn't a big deal at all. But then it got to, you know, I was still in banking through the financial crisis of conscience as well, because I was part of it, but I got to about 2012, 13, where I had this itch where I was like, you know, I'm done with this whole finance thing. I wasn't happy. Alhamdulillah, money was great. I'm not complaining, but I wasn't happy. It literally did nothing for me, and I was like, what am I doing with my life? And I remember, you know, I definitely had a moment where I thought, you know, if I, and it sounds cheesy to say, but, you know, it was true that if I died tomorrow, I'd be a bit gutted with the life I had. I was like, all right, I worked in banking, great. It didn't feel that fulfilling, and I felt nothing for it. And it kind of just fell into place that actually maybe this thing, you know, what was the website back then could be what I end up doing. But then what it coincided with was the rise of smartphones, which was, you know, 2012, 13, 14, right? Which seems strange to think because it wasn't that long ago. But back then, I still remember actually, someone was using a well-known dating app. And I'd never seen a dating app before or anything like that. And I was blown away that you could literally match with someone and start talking to a complete stranger on your phone. And I was like, it was such a light bulb moment that, oh my God, why do Muslims not have something like this? You know, why is it? It's definitely not a website, it's an app. Because if you're getting to know someone, in my eyes, it's quite a personal thing. And like, you know, somebody messages me, I'm not going to go to my room, turn my laptop on, log in and reply, and then wait 2 days for a response, you know? It's something quite personal that you're messaging, and I thought it has to be an app. And it was one of those things that once that was in my head, literally couldn't get it out of my head. And I thought, it kind of felt every day I was in banking was a day I'd miss out that somebody else was going to start this thing. Because in my head, I'm like, it's so obvious, everyone's going to do it. Anyway, fast forward, 2014, decided I'm done with banking, I want to quit my job, and then literally from the bedroom of my home, learned how to build apps, because I thought this can be my business, I need to know it. So I spent 6 months literally coding and building the first version on Android, on iOS, the website, the backend, the graphics, all that. Did it in, I don't know how the hell I did it, but I did it in 6 months under. I was saying to someone else, I didn't believe me. It's the only app I've ever built, so that's a great track record, I'll take it, so alhamdulillah. But then as part of all of that, obviously there's the building of the app, but then it's all the miserable stuff you have to do in terms of getting the brand out there. And I still, even now, say what we do sometimes is a bit of a thankless task, because, you know, it's a classic. People get married and don't tell us, but then people tell us all the not so great stuff as well. And I'm very realistic, it's a very messy area, but alhamdulillah, there's a lot of good stuff that happens as a result. Like our mission, you know, which I think has become clearer over time, is transforming how Muslims meet and marry, and no question, globally, we've done it, like, you know, alhamdulillah. But we're still, like I said in my head, we're still tiny. So, alhamdulillah, and thank you. And it's definitely not, like I say, it's not an easy area to operate in. It's a messy area to operate in, because I'm sure as many women will know, when men and women talk, and especially when, I think relatively, take the religious side out of it, when there's little social education of how men and women should talk, especially for Muslims, right, because we don't have that experience as such. I think there's a lot that can happen, which makes it a bit tricky. But alhamdulillah, no question, I've met people even here today who either have or have friends who got married through the platform, which is amazing, right? So, yeah, it's definitely changed the world on that perspective. But for me, like I said, for where we are now, looking back, it's kind of every day, alhamdulillah, every day there's certain aspects of, call it this product, this market, and the way things are changing, where I'm like, it's working in our favor, which still keeps me excited. I've been doing it for 8 years full time now. I'm definitely grayer, but I genuinely, alhamdulillah, it doesn't feel like work. It's still exhausting, but I still love it at the same time.
Most importantly is actually, I mean, I've seen it from the UK days. I think it's changed the perception.
Oh, totally.
Of dating.
Yeah.
However you want to call it. You know, it's such a taboo, you know, back in
And
early 2000s.
relatively still is, right? It's gotten better, and this is because I remember back in the day when I was literally thinking about, I'm going to quit my job and do this thing. And trust me, I had a bit of a catch-up playing football on Friday, and so there's some faces I haven't seen for about 10 years, or longer. And quite a few of them were like, you know what, we literally thought you'd lost the plot when you quit your job. We're like, Shaz is an idiot. What's he do? Like, bless you with this nice idea you've got. And then alhamdulillah now, like, you know, hopefully it speaks for itself. But I remember, yeah, there was definitely a few things I thought about at the time, which I think, and this is why I'm genuinely excited for like this whole, you know, call it Muslim entrepreneurship and hopefully the journey of many people here. Because I think for the Muslim world, we're advancing at a fast rate. The demographic is, there's so many things about the Muslim market which are so beneficial for starting a business or operating in the space. The Muslim population is, I think 50 or 60% of the Muslim population are under the age of 30. It's crazy young, people don't realize. The birth rate is super high, so you've got a nice growing population. For us particularly, the tailwinds are better smartphones, better smartphone penetration, better ability to make payments in various countries. For us, the taboo around finding a partner online, it's still there, but it's moving on. Even in places like Pakistan and very Muslim majority countries, you know, we have so many people. I'll tell you genuinely, and this blows my mind, we have so many couples who have literally flown across the world to get married. You know, India, Indonesia, Turkey, Africa, like combinations you would never dream of. And I genuinely think, man, if it wasn't for this app, it wouldn't have happened. Well, you'd never know, but relatively, in terms of the mechanics of how people meet, it wouldn't have happened because what are the means by which a guy in India can talk to a woman in Indonesia, you know, and get married, and the whole thing happens. And I genuinely think, you know, not to get too cheesy about it, but, you know, bringing the ummah together, but seeing the fruits of that as a result of the app is pretty mind-blowing, you know. So, yeah, alhamdulillah. So we'll talk more about the big stuff, but that's, yeah, just a thought.
I was going to say tomorrow morning...
oh, yeah, I'll be rabbiting on more. Uh-oh. She's already messaging me, trying to prep. Yeah.
But no, there's a session tomorrow if you want to hear more about the ins and outs of Muzz and obviously the latest sort of few years as well. It's absolutely fascinating. We'll learn from it. Out of curiosity, has anybody got married?
The all outside. Hold on. Does anyone know someone who got married through Muzz? Alhamdulillah, that's amazing. There you go. Look at that. There you go.
Is anyone on Muzz now?
Yeah. hold on. I can tell, guys. Hold on, my radar's going off here. Yeah, don't worry. The marriage event is later, guys, yeah? Sorry.
Chris, we've obviously talking about past, present, and future and the Islamic economy. Tell us a little bit about how LaunchGood has gone from where it was in 2013 to all the way to today, where we've got this impending cost of living crisis. Is there any evidence to say that it's going to be harder for organizations to fundraise, people to make investments, purchases within the Islamic economy based on where we sit today? Because today is a very different situation to where it was 3 years ago.
Sure. And I'm sure, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but for Kerim and Shahzad, they'll find this too, is that, the Islamic economy, let's say the digital Islamic economy, is not radically different than the digital economy, right? So you guys probably saw a big spike with COVID, and now it's leveled out, I'm assuming.
We carried on.
You carried on. We saw leveling off. Like, it wasn't the rates of growth that we saw in 2020, 2021, weren't going to keep going. And part of that is, of course, purchasing power. So I think you're going to see, a dip as the overall consumer market dips. But the tailwinds are so strong, like Shahzad is saying. So I think the thing that's unique about Muslims that's different than the rest of the world is there is a sort of awakening happening. I was just talking to a couple of our GMW Lab teammates from India for Dovely. We're talking about Gould, the show here, and it's like more popular in Pakistan and India than it is even here in Turkey. And I think people, that didn't even exist like 5 years ago. So I think people are starting to wake up and realize that, we deserve our own products, our own websites, our own services. And this new generation is digitally enabled. I said 50% are under the age of 30. I only imagine that that demand is going to keep growing much faster than the overall market of demand for
digital services.
Yeah, I think that with everything that's happening over the last years, COVID, etc., not only has there been obviously problems and declines, but there's also opportunities. Kerim, do you think there's more opportunities now as we come out of this for creatives and manufacturers to really sort of embrace the Islamic economy? What opportunities would you say for somebody that's maybe looking to design something or get something to market specifically for, let's say, a product within the modest fashion industry?
In the first days, thank you. In the first days, it was, you have something modest, that's it. I want to buy it. Because there's a lack of choice in the market at the beginning. Then people start to, we convince people that it was like 19 tunics. Right now we have more than 4,000 SKUs only in tunics. You have more than 7,000 dresses at Modanisa today. Now it is a time to differentiate yourself. Like if you want to go for all cotton, breathable, whatever you want to do, it has to have a different angle. If you're a designer or a producer, this is the number one thing. The second is, now the crowd is young, and they are claiming no new items and new styles for themselves. Not only the colors, bring me something new is the new rule in the modest fashion today, and it's up and coming. And every region has a different need.
Are we moving?
It's not like a one size fits all. When H&M does something, it is good for Indonesia, it's good for Turkey, it's good for Japan, mostly when it comes to style. But in modest fashion, it's a little more complicated, and you need to think about the regions, and you need to think about the way of lives of people in that region if you want to produce something. Today we are attracting more than 25 million visitors per month all around the world.
Wow.
And a Modanisa can be a great place for you to come together with your clients. This is one thing. The options, it's like everywhere. Finance, it's like there is no halal finance that much on the web today. Travel, food, halal food. Like Muslims are not getting what they deserve today.
Yeah.
And when they claim, it will come.
Yeah.
There will be someone who's going to be talking about it. It doesn't need to be a Muslim, a Jewish guy or a Christian is going to be serving to that. But we need to learn how to demand that, and we need to not to settle for the less. As a community, this is one thing that we should be doing. And as the Muslim entrepreneurs, all of you, as a big duty, I'm going to be repeating myself, you are the representatives of your crowds. And what you do is very important for the Ummah, because you are the voice to the world. So me saying to the world, saying that this is modest fashion needs to be there. This is, if you have a fashion weeks, we are doing the modest fashion weeks. This is, here we are. Then slowly the others started to see it. When you go to Zara in London, you see the modest clothes outside their window shoppings. Like when you go to Nike, now they are doing Nike hijabs. This is how you should be saying that my customer wants that and you need to produce it. If you don't, someone else is going to be doing it. I'm going to be taking the customers away from you to that guy.
You mentioned about those brands, and there's been a lot of talk about fast fashion and highly disposable fashion. Do you feel that modest fashion leans more to being sustainable, ethical, and bringing in those elements of the whole supply chain to say that modest fashion is actually better for us? It's better for the workers, it's better for the suppliers, it's better for the end users.
To be honest with you, I can't say that today. Today was like, it was the availability. We need to first make the clothes available for the ladies. It will come later on. Now first the availability, then the fractions will come, the different styles and different tastes. Then we will think about this, but at the end, like at the beginning, not at the end, Muslims are much more conscious about, about spending money and spending money on the worthless things.
Yeah.
That's why it's also haram for us, It's in the Quran saying that buy whatever you want to buy, dress up beautifully, but do not overspend.
But on a simple supply and demand situation, we've got a high demand but a low supply. So there's going to be a less likelihood of people just buying things for throwaway use. They'll buy something, they'll keep it, they'll use it, because it's difficult to find something else, isn't it? So, it's a double-edged sword. You've got, on one hand, a huge demand for modest fashion. On the other side, we're really wanting to engage our creatives to make more and more. So.
And our customers, for example, in the US, when they buy something, it doesn't fit to them. They're sharing it with someone else.
Yeah.
They're, exchanging it.
Oh, wow.
Rather than returning it.
Like, instead of returning, they're exchanging it.
When you say your customers in US, what percentage of your customers in US, what percent are in Turkey, what percent are around the world?
I don't know it by heart, but 85% of our customers are coming from outside.
Outside.
Wow, that's huge.
Only 15% of the sales is coming from Turkey.
And what about Muzz match? Or Muzz, sorry. Whoa.
We got to edit it out right now. Sorry guys, we're going to jail again. It still hurts, guys, it still hurts. No, for us, so we were in 2016, 17, so this was like 2 years after launching full time, we were like 8% UK, just because I was in London, and I was literally going to mosques and, up till that, for about 2 years, we spent 80 quid on marketing, and the rest of it was graft of me going to the mosques and handing cards out. Like I said, all the miserable stuff that people don't know about. I was so annoying. And now, we've gone from 8% UK, 20% international to 20% UK. So we're almost 20% UK, 20-something% US, Canada, 20-something% Europe, and then the rest of the world. And now, consciously, we dominate, call it Muslims in the West, I think. And the app's in 15 languages. We're like the first Muslim app to be in 15 languages, including right-to-left layouts, including Turkish. We've got it in Turkish as well. I don't think the translation is great, but it's in Turkish. Actually, I'll tell you one little fun bit. We translated Turkey as the word Turkey, the actual Turkey, which was very bad. Somebody in Turkey told us, and we're like, oh, that's so terrible. Yeah, I know. I apologize on behalf of us, but yeah, so.
Catalyst in the political change.
Oh, yeah. So that's why Turkey renamed the company. Because when I read the headline, I felt so guilty. Yeah. And Muzz in Turkish is banana, so there you go. What can I say? So now we had a very global mindset early on, because I guess the beauty of our product, and this was kind of what I always thought. So a lot of apps in our space, particularly call it mainstream Western dating apps, they're very local. So for the mainstream, if you're a guy, you want to meet a girl, trust me, guys are lazy, they don't want to travel. They're like, I want to meet a girl within a 3-mile radius. And probably vice versa. I'm making it one-sided here. And that was the mindset. And I remember even when we talked to investors, they had this mindset that it has to be hyper-local. And I'm like, no. For Muslims, you're looking for the one, you literally will travel across the world. I remember in the States, we used to have a distance filter on our app, which was maxed out at 250 miles. We had people in America saying, oh, can you make it 2,500 miles? I was like, what the hell? So instead, I just gave them a country filter. I was like, go crazy. And now we have, over half of our users are actually matching and talking to people in another country with the intent of going out there and stuff. So the mindset's definitely changed in terms of how people look. Like I said, if your search is for the one, you're more willing to say, you know what, I don't care about anything else, but as long as the person's good, everything else is almost a side effect, like their culture, background, language, country, all that kind of stuff is a little bit of a side effect when it comes to it. So for us, the beauty of our product is we launched globally from day one. We never just launched in the UK App Store and then the US one, and then which is what a lot of apps do. Because I thought, all right, if you're in, Turkey as an example, if you open the app, because of the algorithm, you're immediately seeing people near you. So you're seeing hopefully other Turks, and as that grows, then you're looking further and further out. So it actually makes the product inherently very scalable, naturally, which is great. And the side point as well, that kind of organic growth, because literally a random newspaper somewhere will write a story about Muzz, and then we'll get a whole load of people signing up in that area. So what's kind of good for us is when we're looking at what countries to do marketing in or what countries to expand in, I've already got a ton of organic data of what are our customers there doing already. To give you an example, Pakistan for us, like without any effort, we've done zero marketing there, was already a decent market and paying, a good paying market, which you wouldn't expect. So we were like, okay, we can easily, not even 10x, 100x just that market alone. It's worth us kind of prioritizing it in our roadmap. So it helps drive certain decisions. Turkey, we had a very interesting, no, I don't know about Turkey, but we had an interesting experience with Turkey where we learned a lot of things that even on a product basis weren't quite right. So we actually did some marketing and then pulled back and said, we're going to come back to Turkey. It needs a bit, we need to do a bit more homework here. But yeah, it's very interesting because it is very global. But one, and I know you mentioned around almost tailoring your product to different countries. Whether for right or wrong, I've tried to have a slightly opposite mindset in trying to create one product that suits the ummah, right? So it's having a product that isn't too complicated to use, but it's sufficiently flexible for people so they can kind of use it the way they want. And I don't know, I kind of want to push that as much as I can until I can't, because I don't know, for example, Saudi, I don't know to what extent they'll have some problems with some aspects of the app and not problems with others. I don't know, but I just want to see how much we can kind of ride that principle.
Just to remind everybody, you can ask questions via the app. We're about halfway through, and I've got a fun little bit that I like to call let the panel do the work bit now, where each of the panel will ask another person on the panel a question that they really wanted to ask. So that'll take about 10-15 minutes, but just we do like to make all of these sessions as interactive as possible. So if you have any questions, you can either stand up and ask them in about 10-15 minutes, or if you don't want to ask them in person, you can drop a question into the agenda session in the app. So, who wants to go first? Chris, would you like to ask a question to either of the panelists?
I feel like I asked some questions already, but come back to me.
Okay. Kerim?
For both?
Either one. Pick a victim. And,
Before I go, if you see brands over here, like Modanisa, like Muzz, like LaunchGood, there are a lot of ups and downs in our life. I personally cried at least twice.
It's all right. It's all right.
just twice.
The Wi-Fi is getting fixed. Just relax.
Just because there's no Wi-Fi, guys. I'm joking. Sorry, I'll give you so much grief.
You have tough times.
Yeah.
And you should be getting ready for the tough times and not quit. And my question is about, toughest times at your work for both. One single thing.
We both have some pretty tough times.
I'm sure, like everybody will have, and you will have, most probably. I hope you have ease all of your life, but you will have some tough times, and you won't be quitting. That's why I asked.
So for us, in the early days of LaunchGood, we said, we've got 99 problems, but payments isn't one of them. Payments was smooth because we were the first crowdfunding platform to use Stripe. Stripe is like the leading payments platform out there. It was going really, really well. We had a great relationship with them. And as they grew, all of a sudden we noticed that many Muslim accounts, charity accounts, were starting to get frozen by Stripe. And we flew out to California for our annual leadership retreat. And part of the reason was so that we could meet with Stripe and just assure that, hey, we're in a good relationship. Do you have any questions, anything we can do to kind of rectify any concerns? And it was a great meeting, and they felt really, they were very positive. They said, everything you're doing is right. And so I felt great. We came out. I was with Amany, she's my co-founder right here. And she was like, something's wrong. It's like a spidey sense. And then I got so mad at her. I'm like, why you got to be grumpy all the time? We got, this is the best. Everything feels really good. And we go home, and then 2 weeks later, we get 3 weeks later, we get an email from Stripe that we're sorry, but we actually have to offboard you, and you got 2 weeks to stop using us. And we're like, what? Like that's and it was right before Ramadan, so it was like, what? There's no way. So, and actually, I was in Florida on vacation with my family, and I had to leave my wife and kids. I told them I'll be right back. I grabbed the next flight to San Francisco. Amany and I went. We went to Stripe headquarters. They had like a dozen people from their fraud and security investigation unit, and they didn't say anything. They just sat in a room and they just said we're sorry. compliance reviewed you, we have to let you go. They wouldn't sell us anything. And after we saw our account manager, she walked us out, and we're like, I can't remember her name now, Jessica or something. We're like, Nicole. Like, Nicole. Like, yeah, it's like, Nicole, we were just here 3 weeks ago. Yeah, it's like, we were just here 3 weeks ago. You told us everything was good. She's like, I had no idea. It wasn't our decision. If I knew, I wouldn't have said that, 3 weeks ago. And we found out, and it's become a big journey for us, that there's a serious discrimination against Muslims in banking. That if you got a lot of Muhammads in your customer list and they're making payments, now they're worried about terrorism funding. And that was the first of 3 times that we got kicked off payment platforms. Every time it feels existential, but that was the first time. And that was just so like, we don't know how we're going to survive. We didn't have enough money to pay engineers to rebuild the system, but subhanAllah, you find a way. I mean, I think that's a big part of entrepreneurship is despite your limitations, despite your limited resources, you find a way forward. And it also highlights, I think, the importance and the need for Muslims, not just to have consumer-facing websites, but actually own these services. Like how much do we see something happens in Palestine, Sheikh Omar Suleiman posts about it, and then Instagram or Facebook freezes his account, or India now, right? You post something highlighting what Modi's doing against Muslims. Oh, this flag for inappropriate content, and it's like, what? Like that doesn't make sense. We Muslims, we really need to own not just the outward-facing technology, but the pipes, the underlying technology. Otherwise, we're always going to be beholden to bigger powers than ourselves.
Very true, by the way. And I don't want to talk on some of our future plans, but part of it is exactly that. How do we become much broader than just the segment we're in? Because exactly that, for a lot of platforms, you rely on these big guys. And it's kind of like in the UK, they're talking about how there are certain bills being passed, which basically means, let's say me as a born in the UK, but me as a Pakistani, I could be sent back to Pakistan, right? Even though I'm born in the UK. Yeah. Wow. So like, it's all, So it's like all the things that you would assume, that would never happen. You have to plan in case it does happen, right? So, and it's the same like this. I'm sure you never thought that, we get cut off from Stripe or payment provider. And even for us,
even now we're incorporating in the UK.
Wow.
Just in case someone in the US said, we're a banned organization or something, okay, LaunchGood doesn't have to die. Yep. And it's excessive work, like most people don't have to do this.
No, it's true. Like I remember early days we get paid by Apple and Google. That's the only way we make money. Now obviously Stripe as well, sorry. But Apple and Google. And I remember
through their app store, you mean?
From the app stores, yeah. So our income comes from them. And our 2 years in, our bank account got shut down for no reason, and we know why, but they got shut down. And I literally was like, what the hell? Because exactly that, payroll and blah, 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 and I had 2 weeks to find another bank. 2 of the banks just didn't want to offer us anything. Even though we're like, look, Apple and Google are paying us. It's not, it's not like a Muhammad somewhere paying us, right? But even now, with our normal business banking that we do day in, day out, when I have to pay, we work with some influencers, and if I have to pay one with a Muslim name, the payment gets blocked, no joke. And I'm like, guys, this is really obvious what you're doing.
And then the influencer goes on social media and roasts you for not paying.
Exactly, yeah. We get, and trust me, we had one where it was 2 weeks where we were like trying to just get payment through. So it's very real. What you should think about that, and don't be wrong, the plumbing and the pipes and all stuff behind the scenes, it's unglamorous, but trust me, there's a ton of money in it. If you can crack that, it's super scalable and super useful to a lot of people. And a lot of these startups and businesses that do really well, like Stripe, for most people, you probably never heard of Stripe, right? But because they are involved in so many companies behind the scenes, they were, I think, at one point, maybe not now, well, probably are still now, but they were once valued the most valuable privately held startup globally, right? So some of these plumbing type companies, there's a lot to be had. Anyway, to talk about the difficulties, no doubt, I mean, without going into the whole thing around the court case, and for those who don't know, a Match Group who own Tinder and basically all the dating apps you can think of, they tried to acquire us about 4 times. We said no. Then they bought a competitor, and then they sued us afterwards over the use of the word match in our brand at the time, which was called Muzz. And they sued us both in the UK and also in the US. And I was just talking to someone else about this as well. So in the US, I remember just looking at it thinking, flipping out, the legal system here is horrible in the US. We can't fight this. It would kill us if we lost. So we had to settle there. And what that meant is the whole case was riding in the UK in the courts there. Unfortunately, we lost 2 months ago. And even now, it's the pain of the whole legal, trust me, it's horrible, of going through the legal process, where I'm not an anxious person, but even now I wake up in the morning and I get anxious that there's an email from my lawyers, because literally for the past X months, that's all it's been, one thing after another after another. And if I tell you, like, you know, these companies, big companies out there, there's a few things, a few lessons that it taught me. Because don't get me wrong, when they were making offers for our business, there was one part of me that thought, that's a nice number, you know. It's life-changing, I'm not going to deny it was. But then I was very lucky that at the time it didn't mean anything for me, and over time it's meant even less to me. And if anything, and this is not hopefully in a big-headed way, but it's reminded myself of the value of, my God, we need Muslims doing this stuff. We can't sell out early, and we can't have other people deciding things for us. We've got the smarts in our community, we just need to do it. So you know, we need to encourage, I guess it is each other to take more risks and to help each other out, because it's lonely. Trust me, I can't tell the number of things that I'm involved in that literally I can't really talk to anyone. I can't really talk to my team because it's not their problem, and you don't want it to be their problem. So you are, whether you like it or not, and you know, you're on your own, I have to admit. And there have been days, and I actually think that I've been through way worse things outside of the whole legal case, for sure. You know, some of the most draining things are anything to do with people. You know, building a team, hiring, you know, you think you've just nailed it, and then someone leaves and you're like, oh man, what the hell? And it's constant, you know, you're dealing with so many different things that you are on your own. So I've had, you know, my motto always has been, tomorrow's a new day, you know, and, you know, like, I'm still alive and it's all good, alhamdulillah. So, like, sometimes I've had literally horrible days where you don't want to eat, and I've had days where I'm just like, I just don't have the appetite to eat, and I'll just go to sleep. And weirdly, tomorrow's a new day, and it's all good. I go again. So no doubt, you know, I'm sure every startup has that. Definitely, I would say you have to be very wary of it. You have to persist. I quit my job intentionally because I didn't want a backup plan. Because I knew if I was still working at Morgan Stanley and I had this thing on the side, the moment this gets hard, I'm like, screw it. Morgan Stanley pays, I'm going to go back to that. And I was like, no, I can't have that. You have to be all in, I'm telling you, because it's hard enough. I have people who ask for business advice and they're like, yeah, I want to do this and I want to do that. And I'm always like, no, do one, because it's flipping hard as it is. Why are you trying to do two? Like, you know, focus.
I've had exactly the same experience. If you do feel that...
But you had a startup as well, right? So there you go.
Exactly, and you literally drop everything and you move all of your chips into one you know,
basket.
One basket, and you say, okay, you have to go in 100%. But you have to take that attitude that every day is a new day, because you will go through so many challenges. And I think that's probably if anybody, you know, has been through a startup or is looking to do it, you know, we don't want to scare you.
Yeah.
Right? It's very rewarding, right? But it is really, really difficult, and I think Shahzad has just explained some of that.
And I know it's aged me because my mum says.
Yeah.
My mum says I look older than my older brother, and it's definitely over the last couple of years. There's a human effect of all this. It does. It stresses you out. I don't feel stressed, but obviously, clearly, my body does. But it definitely does. It is exhausting, and you're knackered. But then it's kind of good and bad. And you know, Chris, I'm sure both of you have big teams, and there's some element of, you know, crap, they rely on me for X, Y, Z, you know, and you don't get a choice to opt out. You're like, yeah, I'm in it. I hired these people. I owe them, you know, it's a one-way bet from you in terms of, well, all right, you've got all of me, because, you know, whether you like it or not, there are people relying on you to make decisions or you to just carry on the fight, you know, like, you know, I'm sure for both of your companies, to some extent, if you were intentionally less involved, people would look at you being like, well, if he's not that bothered, why should I be that bothered? You know, and there's a knock-on effect. So you don't get a choice, basically.
Well, Kerim, thank you very much for saving Shahzad and Chris.
There you go.
Ask the questions. The only reason I'm moving on is just because of time. And there's some really good questions from the audience as well. So, Kerim, this one's for you. Is it challenging as a male leading a business in the modest fashion space?
Not at all. Because serving to ladies is it came from the core from me, like, because when I saw, repeating myself again, but when I saw that some of the ladies don't get what they deserve. Just because the industry is not looking to them. The modest fashion industry, there are a few of them, they were just making whatever they want. They were repeating the same color and same type every year, over and over again. But when you look to the Westerners, they were looking to the Muslim ladies, or say, if you want to wear something decent, come to us. We were not going to be producing something for you. We are doing something, put it on. It was dictating. The fashion industry was like that. And that was a great challenge for me. I said, guys, you'll see, there is a big crowd, and you'll produce for them. You'll learn one by one. That's why it was delightful for me to work. First, educating the industry one way, challenging them. The other way is it's very rewarding, because the ladies, when you go out, you see different colors, different shapes. You see in the the ladies were not going to the concerts before, because they don't have that kind of a clothing that fits to that kind of a event. Now the modest ladies and non-modest ladies, they're together in the same places, having equal lives, taking the equal shares from the life. That is delightful.
I have a question just on modest fashion here in Turkey. I've been here for a few weeks, been here a couple of times now. How do you feel that Modanisa sits amongst Turkish women as a whole, where you have this polarity between secularism and faith-based requirements? Do you feel that modest fashion actually bridges the gap a little bit?
It normalizes people, because there was a big thing. This is this crowd and this is this crowd. They have that was the famous street over here. It was Fatih Street. The modest ladies could only shop on the street, only this one. When they go to a shopping mall, there was nothing for them. Nothing.
Like
they were
100 million
to
people.
Buy something for their kids, not for themselves.
Right.
Can you believe that?
Normalizes it. That's interesting.
Now it's normalizing. People are sit together. They're sitting right next to each other in a concert, and they started not to look their outfit, but they started to look to the same thing together. Okay. And when you cut those barriers, break those barriers, people get normalized.
But even for the non-Muslim market, like for modest fashion as a category in its own right, for the non-Muslim market, is a thing now. It's growing, but it's a thing, and it was never a thing. Like even the words modest fashion, I'd never heard before Modanisa and the types of clothes being made for Muslim women, right? Which is a fairly new phenomenon. So, fair play.
When you talk about Muslim minority countries, unfortunately, ladies are still a moving target. They can be harassed on the streets, like a terrorist kind of treatments you can still hear. But we will work together on that. Like at the very last of this session, I just want to talk about it, because it's also a duty for all of us to normalize this in our societies. We need to come together. We need to show that it's a big society. We are 2 billion people, and we are consumers. And we can't wait. Our governments come together and take an action. If you have a site, you have millions of people. You are bigger than a television station. I'm getting 25 million visitors per month. I'm bigger than a television channel. And you are working for a Hollywood studio, and we need to work together. And this is the time of inclusivity. Everybody is talking about inclusivity. They should show us that they are real. Inclusivity, not only for what they want. Inclusivity is for everyone. We should be working together as entrepreneurs. You are the representatives, and you are a two-way bridge between your customers and yourselves. And we should be showing the world that we are decent people. We just want to live and get the fair share from life. Nothing else.
We were talking about this over the coffee the other day, that everyone knows what China is doing to the Uyghur Muslims. Everybody. Our countries know what's happening, and they don't say anything. Like Pakistan, Malaysia, name it, any Muslim country. What Muslim country is really, boycotting China? They can't. Why can't they boycott China? Why can't they say anything? They can't afford to. Importance and power of China. And I think that's what Kerim is saying, that if Muslims wake up to their collective consumer power and act as a collective, all of a sudden, we, 2 billion Muslims across 100 plus countries, we can put the pressure on China to change what they're doing.
Between the three organizations here, and if we take, this is a percentage of what we have overall, do you think we're getting to a state of critical mass where we can make that difference?
Not yet. I think, like you said, you get 25, 30 million visitors a month. I think, what do we get LaunchGood? 3 million, 4 million visitors a month or visits a month. Shahzad?
6 million.
6 million. Collectively, and there's a lot of overlap between our audiences. So maybe 35 million a month between us out of 2 billion. So it's still, as a percentage, just over a little over 1%. But we have Sinan, I think, is here, and his wife. You guys are producing Duria, which is hopefully like the Disney Plus for Muslims, no offense. And TRT is launching like their competitor, Netflix, and more and more people. It's not going to be one company that does it, but this is why we have this gathering here. The more of us that can produce it. I mean, Amir's got Muslim, at Muslim. I mean, you have how many followers between all your social media accounts now?
Almost 3 million.
And you started how long ago?
We just turned 3 years old.
Wow,
3 million in 3 years, right? So if we can have 1,000 Amirs, then we got 3 billion. That's more Muslims than exist in the world, right? So the point is,
Quick maths there.
okay.
All of them on Instagram.
Yeah.
Chinese effect.
Yeah, but we can have that impact. It's happening, inshallah, but we need to be very conscious and intentional, and that's why we're organizing these type of events.
Yeah.
And peacefully, we should be repeating that it's a human right, it's a women's right, it's not not Muslims' right. When we communicate that clearly,
Use their language.
when we communicate within their language, and we should show us that we are not psychopath killers. We are the part of the society, we are the taxpayers, and we are the consumers of those countries. Then we should be living in peace all together. Then we can do it. You got the message, but it's also your power with your consumers, with your clients, that you can come together. Like if you have 10,000 people, that's good enough to start a fire sometimes.
No.
Thank you very much. We've got 5 minutes left. I've got lots and lots of questions in the last
Bismillah,
2 minutes. Right?
speed round.
So we're going to do a speed round, okay? I'm going to ask the question. One of you can answer it and answer it as quickly as possible. Okie dokie. This one is to any of you. It would be fascinating to generate a report on Muslim consumers based on analysing data from LG, Modanisa, and Muzz. Is anything like this in the works?
So what was that? Analyzing data from?
Yes.
Collective data?
Yes.
GDPR.
I think the answer is no. I think our data team at LaunchGood, do anyone from the LaunchGood data team here? Faizan? Maybe he stepped out.
They're working, right?
Hopefully,
they're working, yeah.
So I think they wanted to open source our data so that people could see that. I think it's a great idea.
Well, we've got the guys from Dinar Standard here, so obviously we've got the reports that come out there, so that is as much of a collection.
I did have a quick tangent.
Yeah.
Of your customers, how many are, or like what's bigger for you? The Muslim minorities in the West or the Muslim majorities in the East? I mean, I don't know,
right now, Muslim minorities in the West.
Okay.
So we've got great market share in pretty much all across Europe.
Yeah.
I mean, France is our third biggest country, really. And we only launched there a couple of years ago. So I say launched as in having a French version and doing some marketing and that kind of stuff out there. On the data side, so we've got an in-house data science team who all day long are looking at insights of customer behavior, dynamics between Muslim men, Muslim women. How do conversations start? How do you determine a quality conversation? So many different things. Trust me, we've analyzed tons. We have a ton of data, which is actually super interesting. One of the things we want to do is kind of like you said, having some, not necessarily open source, because I think a lot of data is, especially in our space, is quite personal. You know, you're not going to share people's conversation, but I think some people might just find it a little bit funny looking at some of this data. But I do think there's insights to be learned in terms of, I guess, the appetite for different parts of the product for Muslims and different areas of the product. To give an example, just, I know, so you want a quick answer. When we design a feature or when we make a change to something, we're increasingly data driven because we get people tell me 1,000 different things about our app, right? And 9 times out of 10, I'll just listen and say, okay. And then I'll look at the data because the data tells me what I really need to know. It takes the emotion out of it because, you know, trust me, many times a Muslim woman would tell me a certain thing, but then they use the app in a completely different way, whether they like it or not. You know, to give you a simplest example, I think it might have been OkCupid or something. There was one big dating company who did a study on people's preferences. And trust me, I'm sure as Muslims, when you're looking for a partner, you've got a list as long as your arm of things that you want in that partner, and we're a bit tick boxy. What they found generally was many people had this long list and were rigid to this list. However, when somebody approached them saying, I'm interested in you, and didn't meet all that criteria, 9 times out of 10, someone's willing to give them a shot. And we see it, we actually designed a bit of the app to intentionally ignore some of your filters, and that's by design. And we've had marriages as a result of that, because it's kind of like people people think they know what they want, but they don't necessarily know what they want, you know? So, yeah.
What about for yourself? Do you find the majority of money spent on Modanisa comes from Muslims in minority countries like Germany, America, etc., or minority? So I think this is a really important point that we're building, and I think Sinan even can talk about, he's Malaysian, he started Omar and Hannah, but you're targeting, where is Sinan? Raise your hand, man. You're targeting, I think, Muslims in the West as your initial customers. Obviously, at some point, this got to change because Muslims in the West are only like 1-2% of the global Muslim population. But for new entrepreneurs here, I think that's an important point. Like, that's probably going to be your highest pay. You're going to make your money, initial money is from Muslims in the West.
Say that again, sorry?
I think disposable income at one level, I think identity at the other. You know, someone in Saudi Arabia, I remember when I was touring Saudi Arabia, they're like, why do I need a Muslim crowdfunding platform? Everyone's Muslim. You know, they don't think like, whereas like if you're a Muslim in America, you're very conscious of your identity. You may even attach to that identity. Yeah.
I will say, I think one of the things we see is that there is a lack of understanding that there is a consumer base in a lot of Muslim majority countries in terms of actual return on investment.
Yeah.
So like they can deprioritize Muslim markets because they feel like there's not going to be the same.
Yeah. But it's starting to change because you see that Ertugrul is much bigger in Pakistan and India than in America. So
You said that it's bigger than Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones. Worldwide, it's bigger than
more
Game
halal.
of Thrones.
I haven't watched Game of Thrones.
I've never watched Game of Thrones, so I can't say, bro.
But it's true, by the way. I remember when way early on with Muzz, when we were trying to raise investment, and you know, unfortunately, I think the Muslim investor scene, we've talked about, I'm sure, they weren't ready for it. Fine. The non-Muslim investor scene didn't get it and didn't think there was a thing here. Some of them could see it and they were like, all right, you know what, let's go for it. No doubt, as we've grown, I mean, look, I'll tell you, we service Muslims. In the UK, Apple came to us saying, oh, we want to do some stuff with you guys because you're clearly doing, you know, they can see it in the data that we're doing well, and they want to partner and blah, blah, blah. And never would I have thought, all right, they'd be remotely interested in us and everything that, you know, encompasses a space where you're a Muslim-only product, to be honest. No doubt, through the size of our market, our spending power is there. I tell you it is. If you build something high quality, Muslims, I know we commonly think, and I thought the same when I started, oh, Muslims ain't going to pay, we're all tight, we don't want to pay for stuff. A lot of people still say it should be free, but equally, I still get that grief, but a lot of people, because we built something, I think, inshallah, is actually a proper quality product, and we invest a stupid amount into our product, right? Like, we never outsource anything, we build it from scratch, we build it in-house, we do all these things. Why? Because for me, that was one of the principles that I myself was fed up of a lot of Muslim offerings which were average, which were not that great, and which you're a bit embarrassed about. And I was like, no, screw that. Why don't we have something that's high quality that we're not embarrassed about it, where we're like, you know what, this came from our community and flipping out, it's really good. And I wanted us to be that example. When you do that, I'll tell you, Muslims will use it, Muslims will pay for it. There is money there in terms of it being a viable business. A quick one, and you talked to Chris about like, where we get our income from. So kind of similar, we get our income from, right now, majority Muslims in non-Muslim countries. That funds our growth of Muslims in Muslim majority countries. And soon, and trust me, and again, tailwinds, there is spending power in Muslim countries. I'll tell you that there is. Obviously, it's scale and there's a lot of things to get right, but no doubt if you look at the numbers, it's there. The more Muslim businesses, and hopefully Muslim businesses, because if we don't, somebody else will, but the more, let's say, Muslim businesses grow in Muslim majority countries, the more outsiders will start looking in saying, oh, flipping hell, there is a market there. What can we do in that space? And trust me, they will, because if we don't, they're all over it. Yeah. And they move quick, these guys. So that's why for me, and I've realized this the more I've been in it, where I'm like, man, we so need more Muslims in this space, like we really do. It's so important, because and from just having our legal experience, whatever, like I said, it's reminded me of that fact that, my God, we need people who actually care about our community.
Well, I think a good example of that is Muslim Pro, where they got bought by a non-Muslim private equity fund, and they said, okay, they're not thinking about the values, they're just thinking about how can they monetize it, and they started selling their data, and that data turned out to be sold to third parties, to the CIA and stuff like that, right? And it's like, that's what can happen. But
even on that, there's 2 points I want to quickly say on that. So I remember I had so many emails from these third parties, the same ones who interacted. I still remember, I was a bit sad because it was a Muslim at that company who was trying to sell that service to us. I'm presuming he was innocent. And I did email him after going, flipping hell, what was all that about? And he was like, I didn't know. But I remember, and so I had two thoughts about, let's say Muslim Pro, if we're going to use that as an example, which was, firstly, okay, they screwed up. I'd like to think they didn't know and they made a mistake, fine, and they didn't know where the data was going. For me, what it actually reminded me of the fact that, my God, we need to be more powerful and economically strong. Because they only did it because they didn't have much money, right? And so it's out of necessity. They were like, all right, crap, we need some money. Screw it, let's just let's sell our data on, and that's the way we'll raise money. It's so important that we have our own funds to do stuff. Because if you don't, trust me, you have to sell out, and it's sad. Like, we're lucky. I'll give you an example. In France, talking about modest fashion, in France, they don't allow women to wear bikinis in swimming pools, right? And we've done marketing in France, and our marketing gets defaced. We get a lot of abuse in France. If I tell you, Muslim hatred in France is crazy. Like, it literally is. You're standing back going, my God, this is Europe.
Did you just have an advert that went up?
Yeah, so we did, right? So we did a thing well, we had various ads in France, but we did this thing where we said, all right, for any woman who gets fined wearing a burkini in France, we'll pay the fine. And I remember the team got so much abuse because of what we did. People were DMing them personally, finding them, sending them abusive messages. I've seen some of it. We get all sorts, right? But I remember, and I said to the team, you know what, Hamza, we're so lucky that just as a company, and not being in a cynical, we didn't have it with a cynical view. I'm like, as a company, Hamza, we have the resources and relative power to do something like this. Because there aren't many companies who can, or you can even afford to. And I'm like, it just reminded me of the fact, we need more companies who can do this, because if there's one thing I've learned in all of this, and you look at politics, you look at governments and how everything operates, probably more in the US than any other country, but it's happening everywhere. Whether you like it or not, business and money rules. Not politics, it's business and money, that's power. And for Muslims, like I said, we lack, I'm talking very geopolitical here, but we lack unity, and you see it, and we don't realize our own value. We have so much value and power together, but it's hard because we don't stick together, and that's our biggest weakness. And it's not by design. But there you go. Sorry, that was my.
We're definitely failing at this rapid fire.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. Sorry.
No, I know.
I'll show up now.
I never expected it to be rapid fire with it. No, thank you very much, everybody. I hope everybody's found.
We got a little more time. No?
Yeah. Go on.
Come on, few more minutes.
Let's blitz the last few.
Let's do a couple of questions from the audience.
Okay.
Yes, please, Muzz.
When we talk about the Islamic economy or companies that are serving a Muslim audience, how important are Islamic principles in running your business, right? Because there's one way of saying that, we're going to serve Muslims, let's say, of any background, just anybody that calls themselves Muslim, we're going to serve them. Or are there principles guiding your decision? And that applies to all three companies in a sense, LaunchGood when it comes to financing. I know Modanisa, right? How do you determine what is modest? Are you basing it off of Islamic principles or what Muslims want to wear? Does that question make sense? Like, is the Islamic part important or is the Muslim part more important?
Straight to it. Oh.
Right. What happened? Everybody will be here.
I'm answering this last.
With a 3 or 4 sentences, I'll try to explain it. Like, the question is ignorant. I'm an ignorant man like you, because women knows what they want and they know their limits. And when you have a bouquet of selections over there, they choose what is good for them, what is modest in their society, and they know what to wear. That's why you can't dictate anything like that. Okay, guys, you need to wear this. This is the old fashion of the world. Now we need to empower, like, our women. They know what they want, and they will choose what they want to wear. You can't dictate it. When it comes to running the Islamic principles in the company, that is very important, because the recipe to success is there, driven by the God, saying that if you do those, you'll be successful, and you'll be rewarded not only in dunya but also in the other life. And we are trying to do that. Like, we have mistakes sometimes. Temptations comes out, and you are trying to find a quicker way, but thank God the slap comes, and you say, okay,
lesson learned.
Lesson learned.
Yeah.
And you're fortunate if you get the slap, because you're going back to the right track, and it's very important to follow the success principles of the Creator that He recommended to us. For me.
Initially, on the surface. One of the sisters, maybe?
Munad.
Munad, and then we'll go to the back. Zoe.
My question is, do you think that you can be profit maximizing ethical?
Do you think?
Do you think as a business, especially within the capital system that we operate in, that we can be profit maximizing and ethical at the same time?
Being in a capitalist world, can we be profit maximizing and ethical at the same time?
I actually think no. I'll give you an example. For us, we could double our revenue tomorrow by making a few changes to the app, and intentionally we don't, and we haven't. Like, one principle I remember when I first started, like for 2 whole years when I first launched it, there was nothing to pay for. It was completely free, and it was literally coming out of my pocket until we couldn't anymore. But part of that journey for me was, and I saw a lot of people who were getting married and blah blah blah, and I thought, okay, I want to make sure it's as easy as possible for anyone to get married. Therefore, what that means is, throughout the whole product, you have to always be able to talk to someone and never pay. You could literally use Muzz, find someone, get married, never pay us a penny. And I'm like, alhamdulillah, that should always happen. And I've actually written it as one of our core, call it company principles. Principle 1, we want you to get married. We don't want to keep you on the platform for longer than necessary. And number 2, in theory, you should never have to pay to use it. For me, I want to make sure that holds true. What that means then, flip side is, it means we have to do a better job of selling our services. So it means we have to genuinely offer things which are value add. Yeah. So it actually I think it makes your business better by, the laziest thing in the world, which is what I hated with the old websites, was you match with a woman, the moment you want to even read her message, sorry, you got to pay. And 9 times out of 10, it was a scammer, right? So okay, fine. And I was like, that doesn't seem like the right way of doing business, right? And no doubt, I actually think part of it's helped with a general shift in terms of freemium as a product. But for me, I think as a Muslim, what I found in the business is, by having that values-based option, it means that, like I said, everything that we sell, anything time we're talking about a product, or asking you to buy something, there has to be genuine value to you, because it's very optional. You don't have to buy it. You don't need to buy it. And for me, it's important for us as a business that you shouldn't have to buy it. So that's kind of my mindset on it. And I always think, by the way, and this is just a general business principle, which I think is worth taking away, genuinely focus on just adding some value to someone's life and improving the quality of a product. The money comes. I'm telling you, the money always comes. If you focus on the money, you'll take shortcuts. I'm not saying you took shortcuts, but you know what I mean. You'll take shortcuts. No. But you'll inherently take shortcuts and try and speed things up here and there. And ultimately, you'll make bad decisions for the product. Don't focus on the money. Like, really consciously, don't focus on the money. Give you another final quick example. We redesigned a feature in our app just now called Icebreakers. The gist of it was helping people have a higher quality conversation, because we found that a lot of Muslim men and women don't know how to have the conversation. They don't know how to. So we're trying to help on that. We knew when we designed it, all right, the way we've designed it will hurt revenue somewhat. but we're like, it's still the right thing to do, therefore we should do it. And that was like, maybe it's, we're lucky that we're in that position that we can do that, but it's a principle we try and remind ourselves of, including myself, you know. So we've actually taken a lot of things out to make the app better, if that makes sense. You go.
A lot of the time, I think when we, including myself, interact with a lot of these Muslim organizations or companies that kind of work adjacent to similar companies that are conventional, what happens is you don't see that. Like, you don't see the spirit. So what you're saying to me now is something that I probably would have envisioned when I looked at Muzz previously. So one thing is that maybe it's like, how do we translate that in terms of understanding that Muslim companies are there first and foremost to serve Muslims?
Yeah.
And the second question I ask myself a lot is that, I mean, a lot of people strive to be entrepreneurs, but the business models that are constantly taught is ones that are quite exploitative. So even when it comes to fashion or whatever, like, yeah, it's really important that we fit in, yeah, it's really important that we feel comfortable within society, especially coming from the West. But should that be a consequence of cheap labour or all of these things? And what kind of effort is being put to ensure that protection of women in, you know, global South countries are maintained in order to protect us in the global North?
It's a very valid question, and no doubt, I think with any business that you start, I actually think you could take religion out of it somewhat. We're all born with a set of morals and ethics. Obviously, religion adds a whole other layer to that, right? In any business, 9 times out of 10, you can make more money not doing the ethical thing because it's easy. If you want to take a shortcut, you want to do something easy and make easy money, 9 times out of 10, it's probably not that ethical. And for us, it's a slow road. You know, I talk about our growth. It might feel like we've grown loads. We've just grown a little bit every month, and that's it, right? And that's how we've grown to alhamdulillah where we have. And it's baby steps. No doubt, I think when you're, let's say you're starting your own business or thinking of different things, ultimately it's having ultimate faith that, you know what, doing the right thing does pay off, even though it's usually the harder road, for sure. And it is the harder road, no question. Yeah, sorry.
Zoyan, just was waiting. Very last question. Before we do, right, we've got 10 minutes before the social sessions, because I know everybody's going to jump out as we go. Anybody that's going for a walking tour for Uskudar, meet Murad. Murad, are you here? Murad? Yo-Yo? Where are you? Oh, he's outside. Okay, right. He looks like his brother-ish. He's outside. He's going to be taking you through the walking tour. Anybody going with Abu Ayyub? Again, Abu Ayyub will be outside, and we'll point you in the right direction. Anybody going with the Baklava social will be going with Nama. Where's the giggle with the Baklava? Believe me, we won't judge you. And then anybody doing the Turkish language course is going to be in here. Nice. So just before everybody rushes on. So yeah, last question. You got the final word.
Oh, yes.
Oh man, we got another 10 minutes
no,
here.
Sorry, man. Sorry, I have a habit of talking. Cool. Wow, 2 big questions there. First question around, let's say the data side of, I don't say women don't know what they want. Let me correct that. A lot of people don't know fully what they want. They think, I think as Muslims, we have a list of demands. I remember early days, so the early app, sorry, I know we've got a few minutes. The early app used to have, I know, how long you got, right? Okay. Right. Yeah, let me do this in one breath. The early app used to have a ton of filters. People used to literally filter to death. So I still remember this one incident where a woman complained to me saying there was no one on the app. And I looked at her filters, and literally she was like, 5 miles, has to have a long beard, is a doctor, lawyer. This is legit, it's real. It's not an anecdote, this is real. And I literally replied to her going, I just looked and these were all your filters. I'm like, maybe I was a bit, I wasn't rude, but I was a bit more straightforward back then. I wasn't politically correct. And I was like, this seems a little bit difficult and unrealistic. And she couldn't see my point. The flip side of, so we have an area, like I said, in the app where we intentionally ignore we only respect your age and location filter, and that's it. We ignore your ethnic filters. We ignore a whole ton of things, right? Because we saw, by the data, if somebody expressed an interest in you and you see it in a particular section, imagine you're like, I only want to marry an Arab, right? I'm just making it up, right? But however, Asian messages you, Desi, sorry for the Americans, Asian whatever, messages you or says that they liked you, the data shows actually people, if the person's profile looks half decent, people are willing to say, you know what, let's see where this goes. And we've had weddings, I still remember, we've had a number of weddings. I remember one lady in particular said, literally if it wasn't for that, she would never have matched with that guy because he was totally not what she was looking for. So like Allah knows how he wrote two hearts together, no question. For us, I guess we mix it up a little bit. But if the data didn't show that area wasn't so active for men and women, we'd get rid of it. But clearly not. First bit. Did I answer the first question? Okay. Second question around harassment, particularly on the app, right? And like I said, I'm not one of these people who pretends everything's perfect and it's all good and Muslims are great and all that. Okay, Muslims have the same problems everyone else does. And I realized that I had this naive view when I started that we didn't. And I still remember, you know, probably shouldn't talk about it too much, but I still remember a particular lady messaged in saying, someone's made a profile of my husband on your platform, can you get rid of it? And I basically went in to find it, and it was her husband. And I couldn't tell her because of data protection, but that broke me because I was like, flipping hell. And it clicked for me that, oh my God, we have the same problems as non-Muslims. I used to think that, you know, I was so naive, men didn't cheat, and we don't have that kind of stuff. We do. So that's the first bit. In terms of specifically on harassment, so I still like, what I do like in our, and this is by, and it actually slightly answers your question around how we appeal to Muslims across a diverse spectrum. One principle for me is making an app that, see, I don't want to put off, let's say there's somebody here, whatever, there's a Muslim who says, I'm not that practicing, but it's important for me to marry a Muslim, right? That's it. So they don't, let's say they don't pray, let's say they drink, whatever, right? But they say, I identify as a Muslim, I want to marry a Muslim. I don't want to do anything that puts them off using our platform, because I would much rather they marry a Muslim, right? No matter what. So for us, it's how do we build a product that appeals to the religious spectrum, or very religious to not very religious, to the point where we have, I'm just going to use women as an example here, we have women in full niqab versus women who wear a skirt. And I'm like, there's something hopefully magical in how we built a platform that everyone feels comfortable on that. For the harassment part, no doubt, one thing that's good about the way we almost sign you up, we were the first app of any app, I tell you, that made you agree an Islamic oath that you're going to behave. Now I know most people probably just hit accept and don't even read it, you know, but for me it's important it's there. We were the first app where when you match with someone, it literally reminds you at the top to say keep it halal. And I remember, same thing, like my team is very diverse, right? We've got more non-Muslims in the team overall, and some guys were like, isn't this just noise, get rid of it? And I was like, no, it might be ignored by most, but for me it's important that there's a reminder of what's expected. All of those little things, what do they mean? People overall have a high expectation of what is and isn't cool on the platform. So when something not cool happens, people, mainly women, will report it. Flip side for me, I used to do the customer support for too many years. Literally 8 hours a day I was doing customer support, honestly, while coding and doing all that. I had no life. So I learned a lot about doing that. Number one was empathizing with women. I realized I can't. No, I realized there's a lot you know, for example, a woman would report a particular thing, and I'm reading it going, what's the issue here? I can't see it. And I'm missing something. Now, what's good, we have 20 women who all day long are dealing with reports, dealing with harassment, getting rid of bad actors, etc., etc. What's good is the community, we've made it as easy as possible for people to report, and they do. So it's kind of self-policing in a good way, that people's expectations are so high that when something bad happens, it gets picked up really quick. So I never pretend bad stuff doesn't happen. It happens, because I'm simplifying here, men can be idiots, mostly men. And that's the reality. I wish it wasn't the case, but that is reality, and our app will reflect society to some extent. The bit that's important for me to sleep at night, and don't get me wrong, people have said to me personally, they're giving me a boost in the street, saying, oh, you know, you've made this app that encourages haram and fitna and all this stuff. I'm always an optimistic guy, always have been. And I'm like, I don't pretend bad stuff doesn't happen, it does. I don't ignore the good stuff that happens, but I know equally, if I turned a blind eye to bad stuff, then it's on me, give me grief all day long. I know me personally and our team, we don't turn a blind eye to bad stuff, and I'd rather have that as the motto of how we operate. So I don't know if that answered it. Sorry.
Thank you so much. Very nice. You can hear more from Shahzad tomorrow.
Yeah, sorry. I could talk for 2 hours if you want.
Going into tomorrow afternoon, and you can stay for dinner as well, and I'm sure he'll keep you entertained. Thank you very much. Can I have a round of applause for all three of our Thank you so much, everybody, for joining. That's it for today. Join the social sessions and have a great time this evening. Inshallah, we'll see you back tomorrow morning.
Day one, guys.
Thank you.